Greetings. The rare Rebec stream. Hi. Let me just have a sip of my coffee. And I guess let's just get down to business. Rebec's sip. Perfect. Right. So, this is a podcast or something. And I think that sums it up, best. I don't know if this is a podcast, or if it's a talk show, or if it's a just chatting stream, or what you want to call this. The point is, I don't care. And I want to talk a little bit about why I'm doing this, what my reasons are for starting a podcast or something similar, why I picked the format that I picked, and yeah, to hopefully make a bit of sense out of all this as an introduction. So here's the thing. I have been thinking for a while that that I've got something to say, that I've got things to talk about when it comes to sim racing. As it turns out, it's become a pretty significant part of my life, whether I want it or not, which is why retiring didn't work, for example. And I like to think I've got a pretty unique set of experiences and a pretty unique skill set, I suppose, in sim racing. After all, I used to be a casual sim racer that just bought a wheel because it's fun, or because it might be fun. I then try-harded, went competitive, tried to go pro as a driver, then had the great opportunity to also see the other side of sim racing, not the driver side, but rather the organizer, steward side, live and for leagues such as 24-hour series esports. Is that what it's called? I keep forgetting we rebranded. I keep saying Neo. It's not Neo anymore. The couch obviously has moved on long ago. I now use that there to my this side. But yeah. So yeah, I feel like I've got something to say, and I feel like I've got stuff to talk about. Got opinions on things that I'd like to share. I'd like to discuss things. I'd like to discuss sim racing from a sort of on a level that's a bit more mature and a bit more well, a bit higher than iRacing forums or something, or some huge community server where everyone just spams whatever. And I felt this would be a nice format to do it. As it turns out, COVID hasn't left me unaffected. The continued lockdown and everything, and being stuck in these four walls here. I miss talking to people. And seeing as I used to stream, it seemed logical to do this podcast live on Twitch. I've tried to ask a few friends for feedback about the format before I decided on something, and obviously the question was, should I just sit down and pre-record something, just talking to a microphone, and upload it the traditional way? Should I do every episode with a guest? Should I have one regular person to do the podcast with? All that stuff. And ultimately, I don't think I have that one person that I want to do every single podcast with, and I don't want to have it I don't want to make it too much of a regular thing. I want to go live when I feel like I've got something to talk about. That's the idea here. And yeah, like I said, I used to stream, so it seemed like a no-brainer to do this live. The problem with doing it live, obviously, is that nobody, or at least I think nobody, wants to go on YouTube or even like some platform without video and then watch someone that's just talking to chat. And you weren't there, you can't talk to them, and they're just talking to someone, and that's it. It's not what I want my podcast to be. So, if you just have a quick look at the schedule thing here, right above my beautiful, cute coffee cup, I figured I'd schedule the podcast a little bit. I have some dedicated chat time, is what I'm saying. And obviously this is the first stream. No one can submit anything yet, any Q&A questions or anything. But the way I'd like to do it in the long run is to sort of feature a few submitted questions using the I'm trying a widget. It's in my channel's about page down below. There's like a suggestions widget thing. I don't know yet if I like it or not. I obviously couldn't try it yet, but I'll try that for now, where you can submit questions and suggest topics, obviously, and also, of course, contact me on any socials that you have me on, Discord, Twitter, whatever. I don't care. And yeah, I want to just have it a bit more structured, is what I'm saying. I'll obviously do a bit of chat interaction as well, but I don't want to go jumping between topics left and right with no order to anything. And I want it to be. I want to make it so people can actually sit down and listen to this without it just being chat interaction without any structure. So that's that about why I'm doing the podcast. I guess it's just yeah. I mean, I think I've just got stuff to say. Yeah, moving on to why I feel I'm qualified to talk about stuff. So let's moving on to my own sort of sim racing career, if you want to call it that. My little individual path I took in this field. By popular request, I'd like to start the first episode with that. Before I get into contentious topics and pretend that I know stuff, I'd like to actually tell people about me and why I'd say I'm vaguely qualified to talk about things. So yeah, where do I begin? I guess as a child, I was into cars, and I saw that steering wheels for the PC are a thing. I begged my parents to get me a wheel, and I got a wheel. It was some cheap shit, really, nothing to... I don't even remember what brand it was or anything, but, I pretty much started playing racing games with a steering wheel as a child. Enjoyed it a lot, eventually got a G25, which at the time was obviously the shit, because, that was the time of the Fanatec Porsche wheels, that GT3 RS wheel and the GT2 wheel, with the integrated shifter, really weird stuff. So G25 was pretty good, and then that Fanatec Porsche stuff was above and beyond. Now I got Fanatec Club Sport pedals, actually, at the time as well. But I wasn't doing multiplayer anything, I was just driving GTR2, Race 07, a bit of R Factor on my own. That's as far as it went. I was doing it purely for fun. As a child, I had other stuff to do, really. And, eventually I was just more interested in flight sims, got rid of all the stuff, and didn't touch sim racing again until it must have been March 2017. And it was around, I think, late 2016 that I found Jimmy Broadbent on YouTube. Way before his channel was a big deal or anything like that. Just happened to come across some of his videos and thought, hey, you know what? I used to do this whole driving thing. It seemed kind of fun. Why don't I try it again? So in February or March 2017, I got a used Trustmaster T300 and bought R Factor 2 and Automobilista at the time. Drove around a bit, wasn't really thinking much about anything, and then being on Jimmy's Discord server, I saw that, hey, you know what, maybe leagues aren't the daunting proposition that I thought they were when I was 13, Maybe multiplayer is actually fine, and it's not just a bunch of, angry men that steal your credit card data or some shit. Something ridiculous. So, yeah, pretty much that's why I then went and joined the league. First thing I did was VOR, the VOR like Super GT style league with GT 500 and GT3s on R Factor 2. And I just wanted to drive. I just thought I'd try this whole league thing, and if I don't like it, then whatever. Turns out I qualified second for my first race. Behind Oscar Hardwick, I think, if I remember correctly. And yeah, it was around that time that I was thinking, you know what, actually going fast is kind of fun. And, you know, this guy is 2 or 3 tenths faster, or I don't know. I think I had a lucky qualifying lap where, like, most of the time he's way faster and just drives away from me in the race. You know, I can maybe do a single lap kind of well, but in a race they'd always drive away from me. And that's sort of what motivated me to start getting good, because I was thinking, well, there's this one guy that's going faster than me, why can't I? You know, because, I don't know, some would argue I have a weird mindset, but my mindset generally when I see someone who's better than me is, well, there's no reason why I can't also just learn that. You know, and that was the first time I started being competitive in sim racing. Did that league, was all fun and games, whatever. Then I think Marie introduced me to iRacing. And the first thing that stood out to me was I really liked the chassis dynamics. In R Factor 2, it always felt like the car's just kind of, it doesn't move. Like, it doesn't dip, it doesn't roll, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't pitch. It was a bit weird. And then, you know, driving iRacing was like, oh yeah, the car pitches, the car rolls, this seems kind of cool. Kind of expensive, but hey, you know, I knew about iRacing from my days when I was a child and iRacing was a new thing. You know, I heard about, I think, the new tire model being rolled out, and I don't mean V6 or V7, but as opposed to the old tire model, the new tire model V1, you know. So iRacing wasn't completely new to me, and I figured, you know what, why not try it? And I did, and yeah, turns out I was kind of decent. But, you know, an R Factor 2 league is one thing, iRacing is another. When you're competing against 10 other cars in class, maybe, and you have one person that's well faster, that was Oscar at the time. I think Kaspar Stolze was also in that league, but he stopped the league or whatever. You know, when you have 1 or 2 people that are properly faster, that's one thing. But yeah, iRacing officials were a bit of a different story. You know, I realized that I'm pretty terrible at GT3s. I drove the Ferrari a lot. I was pretty terrible, and I was obviously thinking, hey, you know, how can we get good? Or how can I get good, rather? And setups seemed like an obvious place to start. Mind you, 2017, I just bought a wheel less than half a year ago, and I was sort of, I fell down the trap thinking, okay, I can drive, let's do setups instead. And yeah, that means I learned setups. I had nothing else to do. I sort of, in my sort of regular life, I used to be a professional musician. I quit music and then didn't know what to do. So I had a bit of time while I was figuring that out, and I spent a lot of time learning about vehicle dynamics and yeah, just car setup. And turns out that yes, it did help a lot. You know, I did go significantly faster than with the baselines at the time, because the baselines were shocking. And that was pre-setup shops as well, I should say. So yeah, the baselines at the time were nothing short of terrible, and I obviously figured out ways to get better than that. But, you know, I was trundling along around my, I don't know, 2500 R rating, maybe 3000, I don't know. Not much more than that, I don't think. And I wasn't taking it seriously yet. I obviously wanted to be good, but that was about it. And well, then LMP1s were released, and those were something, because as I said, my first car I drove in sim racing in a competitive way was the GT500. Those have quite a bit of downforce, and it turned out that I seemed quite talented at that. I seemed to be pretty decent at just driving fast in those, because it sort of boiled down to me always to just sending it so hard until you understeer off. And when you go too fast for the corner and you don't make it anymore, you just send it a little bit less hard, and then you're set. Just you can't spin or anything. There's no finesse required. Just fucking send it. GT3s were not like that, which is why it was terrible, because the car pitches and the aero balance goes forward. You spin, you die. Everything's awful. But yeah, LMP1s came out. I had already learned setup stuff in other cars, so I pretty much found my way around them pretty quickly. And then I think the official Le Mans series was at Kota, and there were a couple 5K, 6K drivers, and that was in 2017, I think. 2018? I don't remember when the LMP1s came out. Does anyone remember when the LMP1s came out? I don't. But anyway, around that time, 6K was a lot more than it is now. Oh yeah, Season 2 2018, that makes sense. Yeah. So they came out in Season 2 2018. At the time, having 6K iRating was a much bigger deal. 5K was a much bigger deal than it is now. Let's be completely honest about that. iRating inflation has been huge over the past year, especially. And I was beating them, or I was on pace with them. And then you start asking yourself questions. If I, the casual 3K driver, can hang with the guys who I thought were really quick and they've got fancy team paints or whatever. Hey, let's have a look what we can do. Let's see what we can do, because I had, like I said, not much else to do in life. I was figuring out what to do with my life after quitting music. When the whole, I don't know, 5 years prior or something, I was dead set on doing that for the rest of my life. So I try-harded a lot, learned setups, learned to drive, and yeah, I thought I'd try to go pro, because why not? There's honestly not much more to it. I don't know. I just thought, hey, it'd be neat to try and go pro. LMP1 wasn't an option for going pro, obviously. F1 kind of was, but not really. And F1 was in the dying stages then as well. And as it happened, there wasn't actually an F1 series again after that season. I don't know if it was the start or end of 2018 or whatever, but the iRacing Grand Prix World Championship Series was axed. So high downforce F1 was out. The only thing left for me to shoot for at the time was GTE. So I bought all the GTEs and try-harded until I went decently quickly. And yeah, that obviously sorts out the first thing. Going decently quickly and being good at setups is important if you want to qualify for GTE Pro. What's also important is having a team, because it's a team series. So I was approached by a few teams, but nothing really to write home about. Nothing where I thought that pro was within reach at all. So I frankly didn't really see the point in joining them. Then I was approached by Race Clutch, and having looked at their driver lineup and having talked to the guys, I thought, why not? And I joined, and it was fine for a while. Excuse me. So yeah, it was fine until about midway through the pro quali. It started off decent. I think we had some trouble with internet disconnects and whatever across our two cars that we entered. No big deal, until about halfway into the season we were pretty much set to... We were on track to qualify, let's put it that way. Like we were easily within or above the cutoff point where you qualify. So that was going great. It all fell apart when the Brands Hatch week came along, where basically we had, I think we had an early DNF in one of the races, and then the other time slot we basically had to score. I won't dwell on it too long. Those who remember me streaming back in the day will remember what happened. I qualified in the top 10 in the Porsche at Brands Hatch, which is shocking. I couldn't drive the Porsche RSR at the time at all, and I'm not good at qualifying. I qualified in the top 10. I kept it in the top 10 for my whole 2-hour stint. My teammate got in the car for the third stint and got involved in a number of stupid accidents that were completely his fault, dropped us back quite a few spots, lost a lot of championship points, and fucked up, all the effort I put in, pretty much. But, a setback, okay, nothing you can't recover from. A said driver then was removed from the team. That was a boss decision. It wasn't... We didn't want that because we were 3 drivers in the team, we wanted to have one backup in case of problems, or we wanted to, we didn't want them to get kicked for one mistake. But they got kicked for one mistake. Not much we could do. The rest of the Pro Quali season was marred by disconnects and bad luck, and we didn't qualify. So before the end of the season even, I left, as I felt that the way the Pro Quali attempt was managed wasn't great at all. I felt it was sort of... for the promise that this was a pro level team, I had to do quite a lot to get the team to pro level. So I didn't really think there was much of a future with them, given I've had to do a lot for the program, let's put it that way. And then, with decisions like drivers getting kicked for one crash, as much as that crash was shit, I didn't see a point. So yeah, essentially, I left Race Clutch after the GTE Pro Qualies that I must have been at the start of 2019. Now, you'd think that... actually, before I continue, during my time at Race Clutch, I was teammates with Johan Hart. You may well know Johan Hart because he's probably... I still think he's the best rallycross driver on the service right now. I might be biased because I used to be his teammate. I don't want to get into that debate of who's better. Point is, he's easily among the top drivers. Just incredibly good. And during my time at Race Clutch, I started driving rallycross. And wow, it was humbling. I thought it was decent, but then I'm like a second off on the 30-second lap. A second off on the 30-second lap, off of Johan, and I couldn't deal with it, so I try-harded. Because that's how I do, and I pretty much got to within a tenth of him. So, there was no Rallycross Pro Quali to attempt. I pretty much started driving Rallycross right after the previous Pro Quali ended. But yeah, I got pretty good at that. I would say, like, top 10 across the service, good. I think it's a reasonable thing to say without being cocky that I was among the top 10 rallycross drivers on the service at the time. But I left Race Clutch, and you'd think that as one of the top 10 rallycross drivers on the service and someone that had the pace for GTE Pro but didn't have the execution, that you could go to some other team. What basically happened is that's a difficult topic to talk about. I got an offer from a member of another team. Not from team management. The team that member of that other team said to me that, as part of the team's expansion and going paid drivers and all that stuff, they would totally want me as a rallycross driver, and that I would totally get a team offer from the management in a week or something. Then friends of mine get the team offer. I don't. I ask, oh yeah, you're totally gonna get the offer. Yeah, sure, totally. Then I get in touch with the team management and they're like, we weren't actually ever gonna offer you a spot. I don't know what that's all about. So yeah, as it turns out, that team member assumed that management would totally want me in, but they didn't actually want me. I don't want to talk too much about the reasons why they didn't want me. That's a topic for a different day. No hard feelings as far as the management goes. But yeah, that sucked. You know, going from the prospect of being a paid driver to nothing was hard. So I looked at a few more alternatives. I got an offer from Simracing. I don't mind naming that team because they've been nothing but good to me. I didn't join, and Simracing was good at the time, don't get me wrong. They were already good at the time, and if anything, if you look at them now, they've probably gotten stronger. I didn't join because one of their team members thought it would be appropriate to harass me on Twitter, which I, said to the guy who offered me the spot, and apparently there were internal consequences or something, but the guy stayed with the team, and I didn't feel like it, if I'm honest. You know, if you've got teammates like that, you don't need enemies anymore. So, I passed. Thought I'd solo the rallycross side of things. But ultimately, that whole experience was rather deflating, so I as good as retired from driving. I say from driving because through sheer luck, I managed to. Well, I don't want to say I managed because I didn't manage anything. It was really sheer luck. Will Vincent asked me to help out with the Race Spot live events team because one of their guys couldn't make it for the Porsche Simracing Summit in Leipzig. That was in December 2018. So he needed someone, and apparently someone recommended me or something, and I got lucky. So yeah, that's how my whole live event thing started. Will just needed someone. So since then I've done another Porsche event and the BMW Sim Live with Race Spot, which was pretty awesome. Just being on the other side of being on the other side of the whole thing. Not being a driver, but being somewhat of an, I guess, organizer. Well, I wouldn't say organizer. I was a marshal, meaning I was taking care of the equipment, making sure I'm there if there's an equipment failure, if the drivers need to communicate with race control or anything like that. Just, handle the whole thing from preparing the rigs, putting drivers in the rigs, getting drivers out of the rigs, making sure everyone's in the correct rig, all of that stuff. And yeah, so I was thinking, hey, maybe I won't drive anymore, but I can keep doing this, I guess. Which also meant I never fully walked away from sim racing. The original idea was to just sell everything and walk away and do something else. Well, that didn't happen, did it? So, yeah. Through RaceSpot, through those live event things, I met Neil Hackens, who is the awesome guy who runs Neo Endurance, which is a decently high-profile league. Recently partnered with... I actually partnered with Creventic, I think, a year ago, and recently rebranded to be the official 24-hour series esports series. And I'm a steward there. So, and as a
former driver, now I drive again, but at the time as a former driver, I sort of had stuff to contribute. I had a different perspective on things sometimes, as someone that doesn't just drive officials or drive at the back of the grid, but someone that, that competes at the pro level. Because let's be honest, you race a bit differently. If you're, I don't know, P10 out of 20 and you try to keep it clean, that's a different racing than if you're, half a tenth off of pole and you're going super, super quickly. It's obviously just a lot more aggressive, a lot more cutthroat, there's a lot more risks involved, and you just race differently at that level. So yeah, that's how I ended up doing live events regularly. Obviously, unfortunately, everything got axed for this year, or last year, I should say. It's already past New Year's. Goes without saying, COVID meant that everything was axed. We had more events planned, but none of that happened. Yeah, but that's how I got to be a member of the RaceSpot Live Events crew and how I got to steward. So yeah, I pretty much had a regular thing to do still in sim racing. Which meant I never walked away, which meant I occasionally still drove, which meant that recently I started driving again, thought it was kind of fun, and thought I'd give this whole thing another go with a different approach. The last time I try-harded and joined a team, my goal was to go pro, and that was it. I'm gonna sound like a boomer now, I'm not that old yet, but I don't care that much anymore. I want to compete and have fun, but it's not about the result as much. If I ever do a pro quali again, it's not about qualifying, it's about taking part in competing and doing my best, and if I then qualify, then great. But my goals have shifted. So yeah, I joined Fiercely Forward because I felt that there's a lot of potential in the team and that I can, that someone like me can contribute and help in a way that that would benefit the team a lot. Because one thing when you're a growing team that keeps sort of climbing the ladder, the one thing that's always hard to do is to step up, because you never have someone that has the pace and the experience competing at that high level, because anyone that's that good pretty much just gets poached. Well, maybe poached is a bit rude. I don't want to make it sound like that, but surely, I mean, if I got an offer from Coanda, I'd take it. Don't get me wrong, but anyone that you have on your team that's really good, they get an offer from some good team and they're gone. So, me as an ex-almost pro, I guess, with a bit of experience at this and just a bit of driving skill, ultimately, I felt I'd provide something to the team. And on the flip side, what the team is providing me with is a nice community that I hadn't had in quite a long time. A nice place to be, a nice place to race, and nice teammates who are, and I don't mean to make it sound like the teammates aren't skilled, because they sure as hell are. And yeah, no, it's pretty nice. So yeah, I guess that's me. I went from a casual sim racer to quitting, to being a casual sim racer, to thinking, I'm kind of decent, like the 3 or 4K cruises around, but that's it. Person, to trying to go pro, to being among the best in rallycross, to completely quitting, but not actually, and staying a steward and staying on the live events team, and now sort of coming back out of retirement with a different mindset, with different expectations based on everything I've learned so far, based on all the experiences I've made. And ultimately, that's why I think I've got stuff to say. That's why I think I've got, I've just got stuff to say about this whole thing. Because, I've seen the esports stuff from a organizer perspective, from a steward perspective. I've seen the whole live events thing and talked to a lot of people with the money, with the money and motivation to host events like that. And I just sort of know what's going on more so than someone that just watches stuff on YouTube, I'd say. And yeah. That's that, I guess. That's why I think I can talk about stuff. And that's why I felt like I want to talk about stuff, actually. And that's why I'm gonna make this podcasty type thing somewhat of a regular occurrence. And looking at the time, I'm obviously 5 minutes past the schedule already, but hey, whatever, I started 5 minutes past the schedule, so I don't give a shit. I figured with this stream, I'd leave like 15 minutes at the end for chat interactions and questions, because it's the first podcast, because it's the first stream. I'm really grateful for any and all feedback and suggestions. And given that this is a bit of a get to know me stream, it seemed like a no-brainer to just do like a bit of a Q&A, ask me anything type deal. So yeah, I mean, just fire away in the chat or something if you've got anything you want to ask, or any topics you want to suggest, or anything you want to chat about. It doesn't even have to be strictly related to sim racing. And feel free to use this topic submission widget in the about section or whatever. I don't even know how Twitch works anymore. It's been so long.
Um, yeah, and I'll have a sip of my coffee. It's quite nice. It's an Ethiopian light roasted coffee. Getting very strong notes of berry today. So yeah, I'm quite into coffee, I guess, if you couldn't tell yet. I'm rather into cycling, if you couldn't tell yet. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not mad if you've got nothing to ask or whatever, but if there's nothing going on, I'll just edit it out when I upload the VOD or whatever. It's fine. The Crispy is asking, how was your Daytona 24? We got hit at the start. Before the time even started, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to be like harsh or anything. Like, I just expected the other car to be on the apex. Could be more careful next time, you know, like I've learned my lesson. I'll be more careful next time I start a special event. But also, if the other car just simply took the apex, we wouldn't have gotten hit. So, you know, I have a hard time blaming myself for it. But yeah, we had aero damage from the start. And then because you can't fully repair damage in iRacing ever, unless you're driving like the LMP2 or something, we were down on top speed, and Daytona needs top speed. So we had no pace, and then we cruised around and then parked it. But then people in front of us DNF'd, so we went out again to collect like the dead people, you know, just I don't know, do like 30 laps because the next dead person is 30 laps ahead of you or whatever. I don't even remember where we finished. I just know I didn't lose our rating because we kept going, or because you guys kept going actually. Teammates kept going. I didn't. Yeah, I was just gonna say like we as the team, you know, like the car, but it was mostly just Crispy and Ollie. So yeah, I think Marie got in for a stint as well. But yeah, exactly. You drove to hit Fasha. But yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why I'm not too fond of Daytona as a special event, because with the current damage repairs, it's just you know, at least in real life, if you get hit on the rear wheel, you're out. You're dead. Car's broken. You're not gonna fix the whole rear suspension or like a bent chassis. But if you've got a fucked bumper, you get a new bumper and you don't have aero damage. And in iRacing, you just suffer. You just go slow the rest of the race. Just suffer. Annoying. That's why I don't like Daytona. I like the special event if you don't have damage, but it's so easy to just get damage from one, I don't know, netcode with an LMP2 or whatever, and then it's just luck. I use one computer. It's down here next to me here, and then it's just long cables back to the rig. I don't have money for two computers. That's quite expensive. So yeah, no, I used to have it closer together in my old flat. And the flat before. I moved out from my parents' place and then took everything to the new flat where everything was really close together. And now in a new flat, yeah, we've just got some long cables running back there, but it's okay. I think just having a few long cables is much more pleasant than spending fucking, I don't know, $2,000 on a on a new computer. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's nice and big. We had a tiny one in the city around here, and now we're like a bit more on the outskirts. Like, it's still a city, kind of, still a town, but yeah, it's just like sort of just a place where people live and then they go to the city to work, it sort of feels like. So yeah, we've got a lot more space here now and it's much better. Yes, regarding I guess my sim racing career, I guess I could say that as well. Like, I do SEO now because so Marie did SEO GT with some team and then got the one clean X, so I had the least amount of incidents, got an invite for the next season, and then she joined a different team and then started the other thing with the free invite, and then that team exploded, but it was her entry
So she needed to figure out how to finish the season, and then Fiercely Forward and myself came in. So now I'm driving with her and under the Fiercely Forward name. The whole entry started out as as some SCOGT with some guy from New Zealand, basically. Then it became Huber in the SCO sort of, I don't know what they call it, endurance series with LMP2 anyway, that one. And now it's not Huber anymore, it's Fiercely Forward. Yes, I live in Germany. I'm going to order a new game PC. Should I go for triple screen or a bigger curved screen? 32-inch now. I think it depends a little bit on your space and your budget. Personally, I have an ultra wide because it was, at the time that I bought it, it was significantly cheaper than getting 3 good screens. And you only need a single monitor mount, which again was cheaper for me than getting a triple screen mount. I can live without, I don't know, maybe this much on each end, you know, I can live without seeing that. If, I don't know how the monitor situation is now, I haven't looked in quite some time. If triples are a similar price to ultra wide, I would go with triples because you simply see more. I think that's sort of what everyone is saying that has had ultra wide and triples. If you've got the space and if it's within your budget, go with triples. If you want to save money and the ultra wide is actually cheaper, which again I'm not sure about, the ultra wide is absolutely fine. The critical thing is that you get something with a high refresh rate. I think the newest ultra wide isn't, or like the Samsung one isn't 144 Hz anymore. I think it's like 120. It doesn't matter, just get something with a high refresh rate. Don't use 60 Hz screens for sim racing. That's like the worst thing ever. Yeah, triples do need more resources in games like iRacing. So you need to make sure your computer can actually render that many pixels. That's true. You'd like to race in Heat 5 and side view could be handy. Yes, I agree. If you do stuff like that, if you do oval or whatever, I would probably try to get as much side view as possible. That seems completely reasonable. For me, what I race, I don't care about this little bit on the end. Even if you do NASCAR, I don't think you need to care about that little bit on the ends, but consider space, budget, your current PC, and your application. And if you've got if they cost the same, or you have the money for it, and you have the space, and you have a beefy enough PC for it, then just get triples. I just can't tell you anything about setting up triples in NASCAR Heat. I don't know if that works or if it's streamlined at all or whatever. It's fine. I do have the look left and look right buttons bound, but I'd never use them, so I should probably unbind them. But again, like I said, I don't do NASCAR. I only race road, and I can't say I've ever missed it. I used to use 60 Hz triples for a short amount of time, and I lost a little bit of sort of viewing, I guess field of view on the sides, but get something with a high refresh rate. That's the most important thing. It's the hardware advice that sort of keeps going. I don't know, the thing that more people should be saying. Hi Ale. Have you done any of the Daytona races this weekend or plan to? No and no. I haven't done anything, and I'm not going to. I barely race as is. I wanted to do IMSA at Monza this season, this week. What am I saying? Fuck me. Need more coffee. One sec. I wanted to do IMSA at Monza this week, but I didn't even do that. I don't know, I have to say, like, I try to not force myself to race officials anymore because I have a hard time taking them that seriously. You know, I can prep and sweat for SCO a lot and everything, but just some random race, I have a hard time. I've sort of not had the best week ever, which is part of why the podcast came together so quickly. I was a bit... The depression kind of hit home quite a bit, so I felt like I needed to do something, so I prepped this whole stuff. Felt like talking to people would help. Yeah, so no Daytona for me. Although I was a bit tempted when I realized that it's this week, but yeah. I have to say I haven't made the best experiences on the oval side of iRacing, but hey. I think I have one of them. I remember I bought the Camaro or whatever it is. The Chevy anyway. So, because I was still streaming at the time and I showed it and I thought I might actually race that on stream, but... So I think I have it, but yeah. Also, what I should say, I've got quite a few topics lined up for the show, or whatever you want to call it. And I've got a few sort of format ideas. Just for the record, I'm planning to do special event previews from a slightly different perspective than what you might normally expect. Sort of, you know, I'm not gonna go, oh yeah, it's Bathurst in 2 weeks and I'm expecting, I don't know, BS competition to be in top split or whatever. I don't care who races what. The way I want to approach it is talk about how you race those events. How they differ from each other, sort of from a driver's perspective. Sort of how you approach the racing, how you prepare for it, what's important in a car setup, what, you know, all that stuff. So, given that Bathurst is indeed in 2 weeks, I'll probably do a sort of Bathurst special event preview soon. I'm thinking maybe in sometime next week, really. I mean, it's probably not going to be the next episode, but yeah. What I'm sort of planning for next episode is just another one of those sitting down and talking about something, but I'll actually get an interesting topic instead of my own career. Yeah. I don't want to go like way off the deep end right away. Like I've got a few difficult topics to talk about lined up, but if you've got any suggestions as far as what you want me to talk about, by all means, please let me know. I'll probably do another stream at some point next week. Maybe about just driving, to be honest. About preparing for an event, about how to practice, how to get good. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'll have to decide based on what I'm feeling like talking about, but I've got a whole page here of topics just lined up, so I've got plenty to talk about is what I'm saying. But yeah, at some point I'll get into anger issues in sim racing. I'm gonna just drop that bomb. And doing that topic is already a bit sketchy, because pretty much I think sim racing is so infested with people with anger issues. But doing that topic as a person with anger issues in sim racing, I think is going to be even spicier. So maybe I'm overestimating it entirely as well, but I'm just thinking like I could talk about some uncomfortable things that people don't want to hear. But yeah, anyway, I think the next episode I'll talk about, you know, driving, preparing for an event, how to practice, how to improve, and I might talk about hardware, the impact of hardware, a little bit about the cost of sim racing, although that's sort of a separate topic. Yeah, because I feel like those are sort of like pretty innocent topics that lots of people always talk about, and I'd just like to get my thoughts on that out of the way, so I don't always have to, you know, I'd like to get it out of my head, basically, because it's sort of like a question that comes up just about every day. You know, will a direct drive make me faster? Will load cell pedals make me faster? You know, I've bought the setup from a setup shop and I'm a second off the pace. What do I do? You know, those are like recurring topics in sim racing, and as a quick driver that can build setups and doesn't have a direct drive, I feel like I can talk about that a little bit. But anyway, I think I'm overrunning by like 7 minutes. Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, so the scheduled stream end was 7 minutes ago, which means I overran as much as I started late. So thanks all for joining today for episode 1 of my podcasty type deal. that'll be a right pain to edit, I think. And yeah, like I said, thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope it was vaguely interesting, and I hope you'll stop by again for future streams. And yeah. And if you thought this was completely boring as shit, then suggest a topic that you're interested in. Hey. So yeah, thanks a lot. I'll stop rambling now. See y'all next time. Bye.